The American Revolution did not begin because of one event, rather a chain of events that came caused by the fact that the American colonies were angered and frustrated towards the British Crown because the American colonies felt they weren't being treated the way they should be, and the British Crown disagreed. In 1773, the British decided they had to enforce the fact that they had control over the American colonies, so they passed the Tea Act. The Tea Act basically meant that the British East India Company had a monopoly on the American tea trade. The American colonies, of course, did not like this and started protesting, saying no taxation without representation, meaning that they wanted to be taxed by American representatives instead of the British Parliament. In December 16, 1773, the Sons of Liberty boarded British ships in Boston Harbor dressed as Indians and dumped nearly $1 million worth of tea in the ocean. When King George III found out what was happening in Boston, he got furious, and in the spring of 1774, the British Parliament passed 4 harsh laws to keep the colonies in place. The first of the coercive acts was designed to punish Boston. Therefore, close to Boston Harbor, all the destroyed tea and duties on it were paid back in pounds sterling to the British Crown. The second of the Intolerable Acts put an end to the Constitution of Massachusetts. There could only be one town meeting per year, and town officials would no longer be elected but to be appointed by the king. The third of the Intolerable Acts gave the power for all trials in the colony to be sent to Great Britain and heard under a British judge. They could also be sent to other colonies that were more fair. The fourth Intolerable Act compelled the colonies to feed and shelter the soldiers employed to punish them. The fifth of the Intolerable Acts was not really meant to punish Massachusetts. In reality, it had more to do with Quebec and Ohio and moving territorial land so that the American colonies could be closer to the sea, therefore closer to Britain. In response to the abuse the colonies felt towards the British, every colony except Georgia attended the First Continental Congress. In this Congress, colonial leaders gathered to discuss the deteriorating relationship with Britain. Some argued that violence was inevitable, while others said that peace should be kept at all costs. They decided to continue boycotts on British trade until the Intolerable Acts were lifted. In addition, they also requested each colony that attended to strengthen their military to create a colonial army. They drafted the Declaration of Resolves, which would be presented to the King George. It emphasized the colonists' right to life and liberty. At the end, they agreed to meet again in 1775 if the king refused their petition. The Battle of Lexington was one you could hardly call a battle, but it's where the Revolutionary War officially started. In the midst of the confusion, a gunshot went off, forcing the British to attack. It is known as the shot heard around the world. The Battle of Concord is when the British marched to the city of Concord. And when they first got there, they tried to get all the American ammunitions. And the Americans decided to cross the North Bridge back into Concord and defeated the British troops, which gave the Americans more confidence on what they could do in the war.
1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Stars in the union of our flag, today we have 50, together and collectively represent the union as a whole. We 13 stars represent the 13 states or colonies that created America. We inherited the colors red, white, and blue from the flags of Great Britain, and it eventually became the Stars and Stripes. We kept the colors red, white, and blue. Red sometimes is described as representing the blood of those who have died in defense of the flag, white for purity, blue for vigilance or justice.
In September of 1777, the British General Burgoyne's force reached the northern outskirts of the small village of Saratoga, New York. After fighting with the Americans, the British remained stuck while the American army grew stronger. On October 17, 1777, Burgoyne surrendered his army. Before the Declaration of Independence, the French set up a secret company that provided supplies and financial credits to the American super troops on the battlefield. In 1778, the Treaty of Alliance with France was created. The French Navy and Army came with full force to help the Americans defeat the British. Yorktown was the one where the British finally surrendered. They were greatly outnumbered by the French and the American troops. For 11 days, the American forces bombarded the British. Finally, British General Cornwallis sent out the white flag for surrender. He originally made a lot of demands to George Washington for his surrender, but Washington didn't agree. On October 19, 1781, General Cornwallis signed the British surrender. The document was called the Articles of Capitulation, which then opened the door for the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris ended the war between Great Britain and the United States. It was signed on France on September 3rd of 1783, and it officially recognized American independence and established borders of the nation.